In the dark corners of New Orleans' past, there are stories whispered so quietly that even time hesitates to repeat them. Stories of beauty that brought danger, of secrets buried under centuries of silence, and of a woman whose presence haunted the most powerful men of an entire city. Tonight, we uncover a truth that history tried to erase, and a mystery that still chills the streets of New Orleans. She was spoken of in hushed tones long before her name ever appeared on any registry, as if the city itself sensed that she didn't belong to the world she had been forced into. The story begins in the late 1830s, when a trader arriving from the Caribbean brought with him a young woman whose appearance defied every expectation placed upon enslaved people in New Orleans. She was described as breathtaking, with features so delicate and striking that even the most jaded buyers stopped to stare. The trader claimed she had no known family, no documents, no traceable past. She appeared almost out of nowhere, and the mystery surrounding her origins only seemed to magnify the unsettling power she held over anyone who looked at her. Word spread quickly, not just about her beauty, but about the unease she stirred, as if something about her presence disrupted the carefully controlled social order of the city. Elite Creole families were both fascinated and terrified by her. In a society obsessed with bloodlines and status, she didn't fit anywhere, yet somehow she drew the eyes of everyone who crossed her path. Some whispered she must be of mixed heritage, but no one could prove where she came from or how she arrived in the trader's possession. Others swore she was entirely European in appearance, a fact that made her existence as a slave a dangerous and humiliating scandal for those who prided themselves on racial hierarchy. Rumors grew that she had been hidden intentionally, that someone powerful had tried to erase the truth of her parentage, and that the trader who sold her was merely a link in a chain of secrecy stretching far beyond New Orleans. Her owner at the time, a wealthy French merchant, soon found himself entangled in the chaos that followed her arrival. Servants claimed that the household changed the moment she stepped inside. Guests became uneasy during gatherings, their eyes frequently drifting toward her as if compelled, even when she tried to keep herself invisible. The merchant's wife reportedly refused to be in the same room with her, claiming she felt watched even when the young woman wasn't present. Superstitions began to circulate that she carried some kind of curse, though others insisted it was envy and fear, nothing more. But those same people couldn't deny that the atmosphere around her felt heavy, as if secrets clung to her skin like a shadow. The merchant himself developed an obsession that quickly turned dangerous. He demanded to know her origins, interrogated traders, paid informants, even tried to track down ship manifests to find any mention of a girl resembling her. Each trail led nowhere, as if someone had meticulously wiped every trace of her past. This lack of information only deepened the sense of dread among those who lived in the household. Some whispered that the girl had not been born in any normal way, that her arrival was tied to something unearthly. Others claimed she was the abandoned daughter of a prominent official who had gone to terrifying lengths to hide her existence. Fearing the scandal that would unravel his entire world as days passed, her silence became another part of the mystery. She spoke rarely, answered softly, and seemed to carry knowledge she never shared. Her eyes followed people in a way that made them uncomfortable, not because of malice, but because it felt as if she saw through them, past their lies, past their masks, straight into the fears they kept buried. And in a city built on secrets, nothing was more dangerous than someone who seemed able to see the truth without anyone ever telling her a word. Whispers began to spread that anyone who tried to possess her, control her, or even get too close to her fate met some kind of misfortune, as if her presence twisted the air around them in ways no one could explain. The first strange event occurred only weeks after she entered the merchant's household. A young servant girl who slept in the same quarters claimed she would wake in the middle of the night to the sound of soft crying, yet whenever she sat up, the room would fall silent and the mysterious woman would be lying still, eyes open, staring at the ceiling as though listening to voices no one else could hear. The servant swore that sometimes the room felt colder on the nights the crying occurred, as if a winter wind had slipped through the walls of a New Orleans summer. She begged to be moved to a different room, but the merchant refused, insisting she was imagining things. Days later, the servant was found trembling and unable to speak after an unseen force pushed her to the floor in the middle of the night, leaving the entire staff uneasy. The merchant's wife began experiencing episodes of severe paranoia shortly after. She claimed that whenever the young woman walked past her, Shadows stretched longer than they should, as if the light bent unnaturally around her form. She reported waking up to the sensation of someone standing by her bedside, breathing softly, though no one was there when she opened her eyes. Her friends urged her to leave the house, saying that the sensation she described echoed old Creole superstitions about spirits bound to human vessels. But her husband dismissed her fears, insisting she was jealous, even as her nerves deteriorated. One evening at a dinner party, she screamed in front of dozens of guests, insisting she saw the girl's reflection in a mirror where no one else could see anything at all. Men who tried to pursue the young woman, whether out of desire, curiosity, or obsession, found themselves facing consequences that defied logic. A wealthy plantation heir who offered the merchant a small fortune for her companionship broke out in violent seizures the night after he made the proposal, his body twisting as if something was fighting him from the inside. He survived, but he refused to speak of what he saw during those moments, only saying that he would never step foot in the merchant's home again. Another man, a visiting French official known for pursuing enslaved women, attempted to force his attention on her. The next morning, he was found near the riverbank, delirious, drenched in swamp water, claiming something dragged him from his bed to the shore, whispering in a language he didn't understand. Even the merchant himself wasn't spared. His obsession slowly consumed him, wrecking his sleep and weakening his health. He claimed that every time he tried to look into her past, he encountered dead ends, but the dead ends felt intentional. He told a confidant that he felt watched, followed, even hunted by something that wanted him to stop searching. Objects in the house began to shift positions, portraits tilted on their own, and the constant feeling of being observed crept into every corner of the estate. Some staff insisted they saw figures standing behind her when she walked through dark hallways, disappearing when light touched them. Others claimed they heard faint chants when she passed by rooms. Though her lips never moved, neighbors began avoiding the house, crossing the street rather than walking near its gates. They said the air felt wrong around the place, heavier, as if the house itself was holding its breath. And at the center of every disturbing incident, every unexplained event, every shattered superstition, was the woman whose presence New Orleans could not understand, whose beauty seemed to carry both a blessing and a curse, and whose very existence blurred the line between history and haunting. Her disappearance became one of the most chilling mysteries whispered through the French Quarter, a vanishing so sudden and complete that it felt less like an escape and more like she had been swallowed by the city itself. One stormy night, after weeks of escalating tension inside the merchant's household, she simply wasn't there anymore. Her bed was untouched, her few belongings remained neatly folded, and there were no signs that she had fled. The doors were still locked from the inside, and none of the servants had seen her leave. It was as if she had stepped out of existence, leaving behind a silence that terrified everyone who had once feared her presence. The merchant searched frantically at first, but as days passed and his desperation grew, he began to speak of shadows that followed him and voices calling his name in empty rooms, as if whatever force surrounded her had not left with her absence but lingered, clinging to the walls like a stain. The city reacted with the same mixture of fear and fascination that had always defined their relationship with her. Some believed she had finally found freedom, slipping away under the cover of rain and darkness. Others whispered she had been taken by something not human, that the strange events surrounding her had culminated in a supernatural claim over her life. There were stories of a pale figure walking along the edge of the river in the hours before dawn, a woman whose dress was soaked as though she had emerged from the water, her face impossible to see. Fishermen swore they heard someone singing from beneath the docks at night, a voice so beautiful and mournful that it froze them where they stood. When they looked, no one was there, only ripples on the surface of the Mississippi, as though something had just slipped under. Over the years that followed, the legend only grew darker. New residents of the French Quarter reported that certain alleyways felt colder than others, as if a draft of winter air drifted through even in the heat of July. Travelers staying in old Creole homes claimed they woke to the sight of a woman at the foot of their bed, her back turned, her hair hanging soaked down her spine, disappearing the moment they called out to her. Some said they saw her wandering near the old slave markets, her figure blurred, as if she were trying to step into the world but couldn't fully cross over. Others heard only footsteps, soft and deliberate, trailing behind them on empty streets, until they finally turned around and saw nothing but darkness. The most unsettling stories came from those who claimed she spoke to them, not in full words, but in fragments, echoes, pleas. One man insisted that late one night, as he passed an abandoned townhouse, he heard a woman whisper asking where her name had gone, as though she were searching for an identity stolen from her. A historian researching the merchant's family found that records connected to the woman were missing, burned, or scratched out, as if someone had systematically erased her existence from paper just as she had vanished from the world. Yet the more history tried to remove her, the more her presence seemed to root itself into the very spirit of New Orleans. People began to believe that she wandered the city because she had been denied the one thing every soul needs: truth. The truth of her origins, the truth of who tried to hide her, the truth of what happened on the night she disappeared. And in a place like New Orleans, where spirits linger, where pain leaves imprints, where stories breathe long after the people who lived them have turned to dust, it became common to say that some mysteries never end, they just change form. That she was one of them, forever moving through the quarter, searching, watching, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover the secret that history tried to bury with her name.